Welcome back to Switch to Linux. This is Tom and CJ the Cat. So today we are going to have a look at open broadcast software, and we are going to go through the various settings. Somebody had sent a message or a comment or something that they have a lot of the same equipment that I have, but still cannot get good quality work on OBS. And of course, some people have said, yeah, OBS sucks over the years. And I'm going to say there's some things you like. There's been a time when I did not like using OBS. I could not quite get the quality of video that I wanted. But there's been a lot of improvements, not just to OBS itself, but also some underlying kernel improvements to help the hardware that you use. Like, I'm recording right now, and the camera right now is recording at 1080p. I could never do that before. And I thought maybe it was the system resources on the computer. Well, even my old laptop now, I can even record two cameras simultaneously, both recording at 1080p without a problem. And so that was kind of a new development, and I think that just has to do with Linux just keeps getting better and better over the time. We have a whole lot of different things going on in the kernel. Updates to the systems, updates to the software, and frankly, everything I can see from OBS, it seems to work great. I get the occasional bug here and there, but you know, that's okay, quite forgivable for a great open source platform. And the good thing about OBS is that it is available on Mac, Windows, and Linux. And so this is going to be a little bit more of a dysfunctional episode in that I'm going to show you a lot more of the control screen, and rather than recording a video of something else, I'm going to record you a video about how I record a video. So it's kind of like an Inception type thing. And then, you know, there's a lot more things that open broadcast software can do that I've never really stopped to take consideration of. And so we're going to show you how you can do those types of things. And one of the things I think I'm going to start to do down the road is I'm going to do using OBS a little bit better. Like, for example, did you know that with OBS you can do cool things like add some banners? Maybe in this case we're going to be talking about adding banners to talk about. This video is about great recording with open broadcast software. So we can take those banners on and we can take those banners off. And so we'll show you how you can do that kind of stuff. And then we will show you how to do a few other things. Like, for example, let's do something like this. We are now doing some text on an animated background, and the coolest thing about doing this system is that I can update the text live. Of course, I need to make sure that I'm not, you know, overrunning and falling off the screen like I'm doing right here. Maybe I might do something like keeping tabs on this. I can update the text while the video is recording. Of course, I'm going to want to have a little bit more idea as to what I'm going to type before I do this kind of stuff. But we can even talk about how you can do things like maybe changing the animated background live as we go. And so, you know, there's a lot of cool things that open broadcast software can do. Ooh, that's cool. Look at that. That's neat. There's a lot of things that this software can do while you're in the middle of recording to do a great studio work. And we're going to talk about how you can get all those things going. So let's, without any further ado, what we're going to do here is, this will be a little bit slow as we walk through some settings, etc. And so let me go back. Let's see, we're on full screen. Let me go back now. I'm going to close this guy. I'm going to minimize that. And we're going to move over to this screen here. So this is where you can get open broadcast software. Of course, some Linux distros will have it. Most of them usually do not have it. You usually have to install a PPA to get it. And in this case, what happens here is, let's see, let me think. I think Farron OS, if I remember correctly, had, at least a couple weeks ago, they actually had OBS in there, but it was a slightly older version. The current version is 0.16.2 for Linux, and if I run this over here, you'll see up here at the top, that is the version that I am running. And so what we're going to do here is just have a quick look. Of course, Windows and Mac have their version. You can download it over here, select the operating system you'd like to run it on. Now, I used, when I did some of the very early videos in this channel, I used OBS on my Windows 10 computer. Mac OS, I actually just used the Mac already has a screen recorder built into it. So I just went ahead and used the Mac screen recorder as I did that. Of course, for Linux, you want to install it based upon your various distributions. Here is a kind of a portable mode how you can build it. Of course, if you're running an Ubuntu-based distro like Linux Mint, this is what I use for Linux Mint. We're not using 14. Usually Ffmpeg is installed, so I don't usually have to do that. If you're unsure, it will not hurt you to run this. Just copy this command right here. So copy that. Alt, Control, and T will open a terminal. Paste that in there and run it. I'm not going to do run it because everything is working right now. And I know it's working. Then copy this command. We're going to add the PPA for Obs Studio, and then you're going to do this. And as I said, OBS has had a bad rap over the years in the past, but it's really come a long, long way. This software here is awesome. This is what I use. There's a few videos where I used to use GUCU View for videos where I just had myself because I could get higher quality video on those. Although the file type was too large, I could not edit those videos at all if I needed to. And with the advent of being able to do 720p in OBS, I said, well, the camera's good enough now because I want to jump back and forth and do more cool things. But recent kernel updates, other software updates, I can now run my system here at full 1080p on two cameras simultaneously, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. And so this software is actually very good. If you're on Arch, Manjaro, Fedora, OpenSUSE, so this will cover pretty much all of your basics. How to install it pretty much anywhere. So with that, what we're going to do, I'm going to close this down now, save up some resources. You know, I think some of my 32 gigs is taken up. All right, so we're going to walk through the settings. How do I have my OBS set up? All right, so we're going to come over here, and now you can actually see what you do. So to change something, I'm just going to hit the transition button over here, and whatever is on my left panel will appear on my right panel, and what is on the right panel is recording. Now, this is because I have studio mode down here turned on. If I turn this off, we get a completely different system, and I'm not sure if that damaged my recording. I have no idea. I'm going to go ahead and turn that back on. Now it's still working again. So what we're going to do is I'm going to transition back there to full screen. So of course I have the scene is one there, and then what I want to do here is I want to get rid of the picture up there in the corner for now. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to right click on scene. I'm going to show you what all this kind of stuff does in a little bit here. Let's see. Oh, actually, you know what? Oh, yeah. I'm going to call this screen cap only. Push OK, and then I'm actually going to take my video capture. I'm going to remove the video capture and then transition over, and now my video goes away, and now I have my screen set up. All right, so I want to get rid of that just because I'm going to show you all the settings and things. We're going to start with looking at the settings. I'm going to show you how I have everything set up over here, and then we're going to talk about how you can create things and etc. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do, as I said, go ahead and click this button, turn it on to studio mode. That's one of the first things you're going to want to do. Now you're going to want to go into settings, and I'm going to be careful here not to mess around with my settings a whole lot. Just in case, you know, I don't want anything to break, I don't want to crash the system, and I don't want to mess anything up as I'm going. But you can kind of see here what all of my settings are. So if all else fails, what you do, I'm going to walk through all these screens, set your settings like this, and then make adjustments from there. All right, so the stream settings will set up how your streamer is. This guy here is the show button. It will show your stream key. I will not push that button. Because anybody that has that stream key can stream on your YouTube channel feed. So got to be careful with that. Of course, you can choose your various streaming services from this list here. Facebook Live, Live Coding, Dailymotion, Hitbox, Twitch, Beam Pro, or you can even do a custom streaming server in the event you're trying to build one. All right, now your output will show the types of video that you're outputting. Now, if you are recording, you will see portions of this will not be adjustable. This is the first tab here is the streaming, and of course I change my output mode. By default, this is set to simple. I always like changing this to advanced because it gives you a lot more information there. So, with that, I go down here to change this to advanced, go into streaming, and then you can see how I set my encoders. I do my output at 1920 by 1080, which is my full screen resolution here. If your screen resolution is different, you probably want to change that to whatever your screen resolution is. The encoder, I'm using X264. The various options here are constant bitrate, variable bitrate. I don't remember what ABR is, or CFR, but I keep it at CBR. Now, for streaming, I keep my bitrate a little bit lower. If I were to bump this up, I get the video cut takes more memory to use, but it does look better. I should probably start experimenting with upping this. I think I'd get higher quality streaming videos. Now, important if you are streaming to YouTube, the default on the keyframe interval is 0, which is auto. YouTube does not know how to handle that, and this will cause your system to buffer a lot. So you do want to change this to 4 if you are streaming to YouTube. And then CPU, you can do very fast, ultra fast. Ultra fast, like the higher you go up here, then you're going to get a little bit less CPU usage, but you're going to get a little, just a little bit more graininess. I went with very fast. If you do not have a system as beefy as this one, you want to do ultra fast. I know very fast works, and I have 32 gigs of RAM in here and a Core i5 that is overclocked, and so I'm not worried about hogging system resources when I'm doing a stream. So I did put that at very fast. Gives me a very slightly better quality of the stream. Like I said, changing this number up here, the 5,000, to something higher will do a little bit better for your streaming. Now, under the recording tab, I also changed this to custom output, Ffmpeg. It is set to something else by default. I cannot remember what it is. And then you output to a file, and then you can put where your file is, and then it will just auto save that file to that directory. And in my case, that directory is just right here. So this video that is right here that does not have the logo or the thumbnail to it, this is actually the video that is recording right now. All right, so I'm using the, what's the pronunciation of that? Matrosoka or whatever it is. Matroska, I don't know. Somebody can correct me on that or whatever. Hey, I can pronounce Mate and Gnome, I just can't pronounce that. You'll see here that my video bitrate is quite a bit higher. In fact, it's 3 times higher for this than it is for the streaming, and that's because I'm not fighting my internet connection. Now, my internet service provider gives me a really good download, not a very good upload, and that's actually why I stream at 720p. If I had a higher upload speed, I would actually stream at 1080p if I could. But I don't try that because I just looking at the numbers, I'm too close to the line if I'm at 1080p. Let's see, video encoder, I use Ffmpeg 4, audio bitrate 160. I found if you change the audio bitrate here from what the defaults are, it tends to break the audio, and so I don't like doing that. And then libvorbis is the recording. I do not actually touch anything over in the audio. So that's my setup there. Here's my audio. Again, I don't actually touch this. Now the video screen, we cannot adjust this because I am recording. But what you want to do, your baseline canvas is the size of your screen, and the scaled output. When I'm recording a video, I keep this at the 1080p, which is the same size as the screen. However, when I am streaming, I just come in here and I change this to 720p. And then what that does, it takes the whole video, compresses it down to a 720p, and that gives me a streaming file that is significantly smaller than the 1080p. And so in this case, I can stream a little bit better. I've just found the downscale filters set on this setting, and then I just use 30 as the FPS. My other computer actually have hotkeys set. This one I don't. It's very handy if you do not have a control monitor. It's nice to have the hotkeys set up because you can do some hotkeys to transition screens, etc. Even on your control screen, you can do that. But in this case, I just I use my control screen when I'm recording on this guy. And then, of course, your advanced over here. This is what is your recording file name. I don't bother changing any of that. You can, if you want to change that. You can change your color formatting, but you will get some warnings if you do that. So you'll see these are the settings that I'm running on. Now, that's just your basic settings. You also have to work on the settings on the camera itself. And so when you start, you will be left, I think you just get two blank things, your scenes and your sources. So each group here in OBS is set up with scenes and with sources. And so what we're going to do here is your scene is the entire setup of the platform. The sources is all of the platforms that we have. Now, don't forget all of the elements. It is easy to forget one of the sources that you're not thinking of. For example, your sources do not automatically contain audio. And if I were to create a new scene over here, so I'll create a new scene. Okay, so you'll see that we get a blank scene. There's nothing over here. Now I need to add sources to my scene. So I'm going to come over here and I need to add some sources. So maybe let's say I'm going to show, let's see, let's do a text capture. So the free type text. All right, so I can create my existing one, which contains all of that text information that I had from the other screen, or I can create a new one. So we'll create a new one, call it new screen text. You can see where it says make it visible, and then here is where I can select the fonts, I can select the sizes. Let's go to a 16-point font. We're going to keep everything else the same. You can change your color down here. I'll just go ahead and keep it, actually, let's see. Make it a nice deep blue. We can input a text file here and read it from a file. In this case, this is text. I'm not sure why it's a gradient. Interesting. I have no idea why it's gradient. I don't use this one quite as much. So what that's going to do is it's going to give you something over here. So now you can actually adjust this to size, to the location where it is. Now nothing you do over here on the right is going to appear on the actual video that you are recording. All right, so if I come over here, it's still just the basic screen setup. All right. So it is kind of, I'm just so curious as to why it's giving me, oh, that's why. Two colors, color 1, color 2. Don't forget to scroll down. It is easy to not scroll down. So there you can do that. We can do some drop shadowing. If we do the drop shadowing, we should be able to, you should be able to adjust the drop shadow size and such, but I'm not seeing options to do that. If I could do the options on those, that'd probably be a little bit better. But anyway, there's our text. So here's our text. You might want a camera. So in this case, right now I have one camera set up, which is the 922C. So what I have here though is let me go back to this. All right, so I still have this other guy here, which is the 615. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to plug the 615 into the computer now. And if you recall from the video the other day, the disadvantage of this thing is the cable is very short. So I have plugged in a USB extender here. So now I'm going to plug that in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go onto our new scene, and I'm going to add this camera instead of the C920. All right. So what we're going to do here is come over here, and we're going to push under the sources, click the plus, and then now we want to do a video capture device. So we can add an existing, but this existing video capture device, which I should rename to be the 922. I never bothered renaming it because I only had one camera source. But I want to create a new. I'm going to call this the C615. I think it's a C6. It's 615. I don't remember if it actually has a C. All right, so we're going to use that. Click OK. And then it's going to ask us what we'd like to use. So we can pick the C615, or we can pick from this one here. Now, it's not going to let us pick the first one. You'll see it remains gray, and that's because this is already assigned to that other system. So now it gives us this guy here. All right. So what we're going to do is, if you want to make some adjustments to it, you'll notice that the resolution is a little bit different there. If you want to make some adjustments, you can double click on it, or you can click on the gear down at the bottom. So the gear down at the bottom will allow us to change the resolution. So you can see here that we can do something really small, or we can actually go even smaller, or we can go all the way up even to 1080p. Now, if you do something like 1080p, of course, what you're noticing here is a little bit of lag on the screen that you're recording. Now, look up there in that corner, see the one screen over here, the main video, and there's not really any lag there at all. So what we're going to do first, though, is I'm going to show you. You can just grab this. Now, if you go from a lower resolution to a higher resolution, part of this thing will probably be off the screen at this point in time. In fact, it's way off the screen. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Now, if I want my text, though, above this, this layers them from top down. So whatever is on the top will be at the top layer. So I'm just going to drag this down, and now my text will be at top. So I'm going to go ahead and move my text over here. All right, but you can see that the video is very bad and very laggy. This is what a lot of people will encounter when they're trying to do that. So to overcome this, we can double click on this. There's two things that will do this. First, when you have the use buffering, it will try and buffer everything. It takes a lot more CPU and usually causes a problem. So getting rid of that is usually the first thing you want to do. The second thing you want to do is change the video format. It defaults to this YV format, and this guy here is very laggy. Go down and pick any one of the other two. I just go for the bottom one, YV12 emulated, and boom, you'll see that my settings is pretty much perfect. But I forgot something. Okay? I'm going to transition, and then I'm going to let you know what we forgot. Okay, so I did not include audio. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and with my new scene selected, and I could even do this, I can edit this guy on the fly. So I'm not going to do that though because it'll go through a period of time without any audio. But you can even have the two different things over here, make changes on the same screen, but the changes you make will never appear until you click the transition button. So what we need to do now is go ahead, click here, click an audio input capture, and I'm just going to go ahead and use the existing, which is going to use my microphone, which is just out of view of the camera. And so now if I transition, now you can hear me. So I can actually get rid of my text there that says we did not include audio because now audio works. But I can't spell. Okay, because I spelled audio wrong. All right. So now it's like, whoops, I spelled audio wrong. Let's just go up and fix it. All right. So there. Now we're good. Now what you'll notice is that on the main screen here, the text is out of the way. If I transition, now it works. So that is how you're going to adjust that. Now I can even run a scene with 2 different cameras on it. So we can do that. I'm going to go ahead and click a brand new scene. I'll call this split, not spit cam, split cam. So now over on split cam, I'm going to start by adding my audio input. Don't forget your audio. Just add an existing. Now I'm going to add a video capture. I'm going to add an existing. Remember, this guy here is the 922. We're going to add another video capture. We're going to add the C615. Now you'll notice that both of them are recording over top of each other. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do this guy a little bit smaller. I'm going to do this guy over here. So I have now the dueling views of myself. Right here. Two-way profiling of myself. Bah ha 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 ha. But now maybe I want to do something like, maybe what I want to do, let me make these the same size. To make something the same size, I usually just do this, just overlay them there. Boom, that's good. We'll do one like this. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do it like this, because this one here, as I'm looking at the camera, this will kind of duplicate me kind of looking this way back down. In fact, if I do something like this, it'll kind of do that. I don't like that, though. All right, so we'll transition over. Now I got just to myself talking to myself from 2 different angles, myself talking to myself from 2 different angles. We're missing something, though. What we're missing is maybe we want to do a screen capture or a background there. So what we're going to do here is click on the plus under my sources, and we're going to add a window capture. Not a window capture. We want to do a screen capture. Screen capture, we're going to just add an existing screen, which is this one. And then now you'll see that, of course, it overloaded my video, and so just drop that there. Of course, you'll see it does not matter where the audio source happens to be. So now, if I transition, now I have my videos recording, everything else there on my video. Hopefully, we're actually recording some good stuff. It occurred to me in between that sometimes what I'm seeing on my screen is still not necessarily what you're seeing, because everything is not screen capping. And so I'm going to go back through and double check everything and add in some more captions and stuff, because I really always have to have that screen capture. Otherwise, you have no idea what I'm doing. And so it's like one of those things, it's like you think about after you're doing the video for a while that maybe I need to go back and double check that, because you didn't even get a chance to see what I was doing, because what the screen was actually capturing wasn't the screen capture itself. So what I did to put the screen cap back in is I came down to my sources, which you can't see because this other camera's in the way. I'm going to simply delete that source. Delete that one. Yes. Transition. All right. So what I did here to add the screen capture is I went over and I did the adding the screen capture under the sources. So under your sources, grab your screen capture. I think maybe something I should always do is maybe throw a little screen capture in the top of everything, because it didn't even occur to me that, yeah, you can't see half of what I'm doing. I'm going to go back and watch this again and make sure it's suitable for upload, as it may not be. And so that's kind of that. One of those things that's like, just because it's on my control, just because it's on the screen I'm usually sharing doesn't mean I'm always sharing it. Another one of those things to think about when you're doing OBS. So now what we're going to do is, let me show you how to put that banner down at the bottom. So what we're going to do here is click on your plus, and then we're going to add an image. And then what my image is actually going to look like, before I add my image, let me actually show you the image. So this is the image. And I did this up in Photoshop just because everything was convenient on the Windows computer. I could have easily done this in GIMP. So what you'll notice is we have a transparent background grid, and then I put the banner information down here at the bottom, and I did want to put a little gap down here. So what we're going to do is, under OBS, we're going to add an image, and I can add the existing image there. Of course, I can edit it just by coming over here, grabbing what it is. And you always want the image on top. If it's down below everything, you will never see it. So you want to put the image on top unless you want the image over top. So now what we're going to do is I will transition. And now you'll see that on the full recording, it'll have the image down there on the bottom. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to show you how I did the animated backgrounds. So these utilize a screen capture or a window capture. So what we're going to do, let's see. The animated background is the one that had the Windows capture, but I actually have the Windows capture disabled. So in order to run the Windows capture, I actually need to be running a file in the background. So I grabbed these guys. I forget exactly the site, but they were open source, free to download, etc. So I'm going to double click on this, and this is just going to open up. So there's a star field. I'm actually going to just move the star field over to my other monitor because, you know, I can't exactly work with it totally over the view there. And then what we're going to do is finding the window capture. The window capture here, you can select where it's coming from. So Nemo is the file explorer. There's an animated background. Here is a background on the background. And then here's the actual movie. So this is the one that it is. It's simply running over here. I can minimize it. I can just do whatever I want with the thing. Now, one of the things to make sure that you're doing is you want it on loop. Now, it will show you, if you put this down, the small sizes there, you will actually see that it will give you the control windows. And so what we're going to do here is I'm just going to make it just big enough that I get all the detail that I want, but I'm going to make sure that the control windows are just off the screen. So we're going to do that, and then I'm just going to drag this until it's just off the screen. Now we're going to hit the transition button. Now you're just going to see the text updates. So transitioning back. So we've covered how to do an animated background. Of course, you'll notice this one that when it re-loops, it doesn't re-loop well. You can even change these on the fly. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come over here. Here's my list of scrolling backgrounds. I'm just going to move this over to my other monitor here. And then I'm going to change this, transition this, so you will not see what I'm doing. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to open the other files because this is only capturing that one video player, and it captures the video player as it's going. So we're going to transition now. And so now I can cycle through these guys, and what it should do is change the backgrounds as I go. Now, you'll notice here that it probably put just a little bit more of the window there over top. It almost looks like there's a little bit of the menu there. And that's because some of these are going to be different. These are going to be different sizes and such. So what I'm going to actually do, let me go here. I'm just going to, I'm just going to change this around just a little bit. Make this ever so slightly larger. Transition to that to get rid of that little gray bar that was at the top. Here's my rotating planet background. Now, a lot of these types of effects you can easily put into the video in post-production, but if you are streaming live, it's good to know how to do this kind of stuff here. Of course, double check everything, make sure that your loops look good. In this case here, let me see. So this is a 10-second loop, and I think this one's like a perfect loop. You can barely tell when it stops. Just a little bit of a blip there. Of course, as we're doing this, you can guess what I'm going to do here, but I'm going to go ahead and just add some screens. Let's see. Let's add a video capture device. We're going to add just me to it, but we're going to make that a little bit smaller. So there I am. So there is using OBS in a nutshell. I'm going to go back through here, double check, make sure everything worked. And as I just want to make sure that I didn't accidentally, start talking about something, realizing that, oh, you cannot see my screen. one of those things. You just got to think about what you're seeing, and there's some places on here that I think I failed. So with that, this was a video on great recording with open broadcast software, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.